Welcome to Radio Static Productions. Stay tuned for the conclusion to Sammy Spencer in Interview with Danger. We'd like to thank everyone who left kind comments and our new subscribers. If you haven't seen or listened to the first part, please go check out the channel and listen to part 1 of Interview with Danger. So sit back and enjoy part 2. Sammy was sitting scribbling advertising ideas when the boss yelled across the room. Get to guys delivering trucking. They want some work done. And don't forget to grab a camera. It was all going as planned, just as they had talked about. Sammy will be riding with Guy on his delivery route today, photographing all the places he goes, and catching advertising possibilities, handing out business cards at different places, and maybe a photo of one of Johnny Lot's goons. Sammy with extra rolls of film and 2 cameras, one much more noticeable than the other, and a camera bag. Guy talked as he drove, and while Sammy photographed and helped him load and unload. I have already loaded up at the warehouse, he said, and I picked up the laundry. Mabel said you did a great job, and Jerry is feeling much better. First up is the general store, then the bakery, and then the butcher shop, and then to the Marquee Club. To save gas, I drop off items at the general store, and some items are picked up from there for delivery to the bakery, then to the butcher's, and the Marquee Club. The bakery goods get picked up and items are dropped off at the butcher's. Then meat from the butcher's is picked up and brought to the Marquee Club. I grab the items from the Marquee, such as laundry, and go to the cleaners with it once I unload the goods that they have ordered. So, the Marquee gets their baked goods, general store goods, and what little meat they can get from the butcher's, and the laundry gets cleaned. The butchers and the bakery have paperwork they follow as to what the Marquee can have with all the rationing going on. The owners of the stores have been wondering why their goods have been arriving late these past few weeks. Guy had filled them in that he had been having issues and is really sorry for the disrupted deliveries and that the problem should be cleared up soon. Guy told him it was down to just himself and one truck. That is all he told them. If this plan doesn't work, he didn't want to let the cat out of the bag onto what was really going on. Guy told Sammy they will be parking in the back alley where they unload at the Marquee, but not right next to the loading dock. If I park away from it a little bit, you'll have a safe place by the loading dock to stand and take your photos. Get a photo of Duke by the truck, and then of the 2 of us. Then we will go inside. I'll wait around to unload until this is all done. The orders inside the truck will be fine. The meat is on ice. Just do what you do, Sammy, and if you stand in the doorway, you should have a good view, Guy said again. I will drive the truck forward to unload after the goons show up. If they do. Sammy got the feeling that Guy was nervous about what was going on and what was going to happen. What is Guy not telling me? I have seen both of the goons. The one at the dry cleaners was different than the one at the Marquee Club. No rush on your part, Sammy. They show when they show. I have a feeling they're going to be angry because they have been messing up, Guy said. The Marquee Club had a great show this weekend, according to Duke. Just give a yell if you run into problems. Duke and I will be close by. Arriving at the Marquee, Duke was waiting outside. The 2 of them were laughing and joking like they didn't have a care in the world. Sammy took photos of them by the Marquee, and then photos of them by the delivery truck logo, and a photo of them airboxing each other. Sammy took a photo of them walking away to the door of the marquee loading area, their arms on each other's shoulders. Sammy thought, I'm going to title that photograph Old Friends and give one to each of them. Guy in his green overalls and Duke in his nice gray suit and his fancy shoes. Sammy then sat in the doorway on a bucket. Now I wait. Finally, 2 men approached, quietly grumbling about how long the 2 fashion models had spent getting their photographs taken, and how upset Johnny is that it's taking so long and that he should have had those businesses in his pocket by now. But if he has plans on me disposing of the owners, he's going to have to pay me more. He'll just get rid of you, so he doesn't have to pay you at all, said the other man, as he was lifting the hood of the truck, while the first man was working on letting the air out of the tires. Sammy took some covert photos first, and then stood on the loading step and with the large press camera started snapping photos. The men both noticed and started yelling. The noise got the attention of Duke, then Guy, and some of the staff that were nearby, and they came running out, and the 2 men went scurrying off. Those were Johnny's goons, all right. Duke told Guy that he had better check out his truck before he moves it and starts unloading. Once you are done here, take Sammy back to the paper before you drop off the laundry, Duke said. I will call to the T's and tell them you'll be a little late, but you're doing fine. Sammy took some photos of the unloading and then helped out too. Guy talked very little on the way to the paper, but was smiling. Sammy went downstairs where Ralph stood there with his hand on his hip, with a concerned look on his face. Sammy, I saw the film from the marquee. Do you know who you are messing with? That is Johnny Lott. The hubbub on the street is he is nothing to be messing with, but has been slipping through the fingers of the authorities. Did Duke take the photo of you and Perry? It didn't turn out half bad. Find a place at one of the desks and start putting your notes in order to bring to the police station. I will bring you your box from the morgue. Be sure to get the dates and time correct. Put down what happened and who was there. If this all goes well, Johnny Lott might be on the hook for racketeering, and the goons for maybe vandalism and harassment, or arson for lighting that garbage on fire if they can prosecute them for that. Sammy gave Ralph an odd look. I may be down here, but I have eyes and ears on the street, you know. Who do you think develops the film for the news? You're going to want to call Duke and have him meet you at the police station just in case. Ralph went to the dark room and Sammy worked on the notes. Wrote up a rough draft for the newspaper to show to the editor, with notes to be added once Sammy talks to the police. Ralph asked if Sammy could give him a hand in the dark room. Sammy took the photos and notes and started walking to the police station. The wind was bitter cold today, and Sammy had a thick woolen hat on, and the collar of the jacket was pulled up. Sammy thought there were footsteps following, and when Sammy would turn around, there was nothing there. I'm getting jumpy again, I guess. The police station was less than a block away, and a hand suddenly grabbed Sammy from behind, and Sammy spun around to try to break free while holding on to the evidence. It was one of Johnny's goons, the one that was at the marquee threatening Perry. All of a sudden, the man took off, and as Sammy turned around, found out why. There were 2 officers that had just exited the police precinct doors. Sammy yelled, "Catch him! Catch him! He tried to rob me!" You could see the man rushing across the street. The officers were in pursuit. Sammy talked to an officer that Duke, the T's, and Guy had filed their complaint with. Sammy also told him about what happened moments ago outside. The officer took down Sammy's information and took the photos and notes to another desk. That officer looked at Sammy, then at the photos, then at Sammy again, then at the officer. Then they both looked at Sammy and got on the phone. The officer came back over to Sammy. "You work for the paper. If you hold on for just a moment." That is when Duke, in one of his best suits, showed up and asked Sammy if everything was going okay. And Sammy filled Duke in on what happened outside of the station. Then there he was. The officers caught the goon that attacked Sammy. There was an electricity of excitement going on at the department now. A different officer came over and told Sammy to get some pen and paper ready. He will release an official statement to the paper. Duke was smiling as the officer talked. Apparently Johnny Lott and his gang of thugs have done this before in a few other towns, but there was never enough evidence to catch them. But Duke here is lucky. The other owners of the other establishments ended up with life-threatening injuries, and they're still recovering. This will tie everything in nicely. Duke, if you go over there, and that officer will get a statement from you. We will start with racketeering, and then work on getting him for attempted manslaughter for the other people that were involved with this group. Sammy was driven back to the Tribune in one of the police cars. The police chief escorted Sammy past all the other reporters who whispered, stared, and turned their heads and stopped what they were doing. And the two of them went straight into the chief editor's office. The editor, with a lit cigar in his mouth, "Sammy, why is the police chief here? What did you do? And close that door. We don't need everyone hearing this." The police chief explained what had gone on, and then left the room. With a bit of pride, the editor said, "Sammy, I knew you had it in you. Let me see the photos and your notes. You need to be ready when Johnny is hauled in. This is going to be really big, Sammy. Really big. But we're going to have to keep an eye on you until they are caught. Why don't you just go home for the day, or go hide in the morgue with Ralph, and go through the archives or something. Don't talk to anyone. This is your story. Let me see if I can find out where your dad is. He'll want to hear this news." Then, with a booming, gruff voice and a wink, "Sammy, get out of my office, and don't come back in here unless I call you." Sammy ran out of the office, head down, so the other reporters wouldn't see the smiling, and went straight down to the basement. Ralph, with a smile, "I told you, Sammy. I told you. Now let's see what we can do with those negatives of these night photos you took and the photos for Duke. You won't have to hide for long. They got one goon. He will sing like a bird to save his neck." That evening when I was leaving the paper, Ralph and I swapped coats. As Ralph said, "Just in case." Aunt Dolly looked at Sammy wearing the strange coat. Sammy told Dolly what was going on so she wouldn't be caught off guard if a stranger approached her. Dolly told Sammy, "Don't worry. Things like this would also happen when your father worked for the Triple T. If the chief of police is on this, Johnny will be caught real soon. It makes the police department look good in the eyes of the mayor." Aunt Dolly was right. Sammy got a call that they needed to be at the police station at daylight and to bring a camera. Sammy did just that, left early, and rode a bicycle over. It was a very cool morning to be riding a bike. The cold wind was a good wake-me-up. Sammy wasn't waiting long, and 2 police cars pulled up. One had Johnny Lott getting out, and the other had one of the goons. Sammy followed them into the station at a distance and took some photos. The police chief met Sammy at the door. The police chief, with a smile, "Job well done, Sammy. Go make the morning edition. I will call the chief at the paper and say you are here, and to hold the press." Sammy never made it from one end of town to the other so fast. Went straight to the morgue to get the film developed. I sure hope Ralph is here. Ralph heard Sammy coming down the stairs. Yes, I'm here. The chief called me to come in early, that they were going to be bringing Johnny in this morning. The article is all ready. We just need a photo. Bet you're nervous now, aren't you, Sammy? Off to the darkroom. It didn't take too long, and they had a nice photo of the police chief by the door and Johnny and a goon handcuffed and being brought inside. Ralph exclaimed with excitement. Quick, Sammy. Run this upstairs. The editor will give it the okay, and then they will run it back down here, and you will be, well, your photo and article will be on the front page. In the office with the chief editor, he looked at the photo, yelled for the runner to go get the photo to the press. They're waiting for it. The print is already set. The chief barked again with his cigar. As for you, Sammy, don't let this get to your head, or you'll start making mistakes. You'll be covering the trial of Johnny Lott for the next couple of months. The chief then said with a smile, I found out where your dad is. The USO group he is with is in France at the moment. There's going to be a Christmas special for the troops. It will take me a moment, but I might be able to get him on the phone. Through many disconnects and then a scratchy connection, this is the chief editor from the Telegraph-Tribune. I need to talk to Mr. Spencer. Mr. Spencer? This is the chief. Can you hear me okay? I have someone that wants to talk to you. He handed the phone to Sammy. Sammy, talking loud and with excitement. Dad, it's me. I made the front page of the paper. It's a really big story, Dad. Even the police chief was there. I had to use your cameras. Are you doing okay? I miss you, and so does Dolly. Do you need anything? Mr. Spencer said through the poor phone connection. I am so proud of you, Samantha. You have made your father so very proud. And no, I have everything I need, but the mail is slow. Tell the chief Glenn Miller is a no-show, but that won't hit the press until Christmas Eve. I am well and staying safe, and I love you, Samantha. And hug Dolly for me. Happy holidays if I don't hear from you. Dad, thank you for teaching me everything. I am proud of what you are doing, too. Please stay safe. Love you. We were disconnected. He said Glenn Miller was a no-show. It will be announced next week, Christmas Eve. Sammy handed the phone back to the chief. The chief, with a saddened voice, slowly hung up the phone. Well, that will put the doldrums on Christmas. We will keep an eye on the telegraph to see if there are any added messages. And now, Sammy, we need you to get back to work. You still owe me some advertisements. I need to go home, sir, and tell Dolly. The chief spoke up. Don't say anything about Mr. Miller. Sammy grabbed her coat. No. I was going to tell her that I talked to Dad on the phone and that Dad is safe. The chief, giving a wave and setting back behind his desk. Fine. Get out of here, kid. I'll see you after lunch. And thank you for joining us here at Radio Static Productions for Interview with Danger with Sammy Spencer. Please comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and we hope to see you again next week. Thank you. This now ends our broadcasting day.